So Wealth Wizards is the UK's leading robo-advisor. We were founded in 2009 specifically to automate regulated financial planning advice, and we've been pioneering in that sector since then. We were the first company to launch a robo-advisor, a regulated robo-advisor in the UK market, which was our product Pension Wizard, which we launched in 2012. And as part of that pioneering, we've been working with incumbent brands to develop robo-advice for existing players in the marketplace. And the most well-known examples of that is we're working with LV, and we launched a product with them called Retirement Wizard in 2015, which is an advisor that helps people decide at retirement whether they should annuitize or go into drawdown and stay invested. And then last year, again working with LV, we launched our product Robo Paraplanner, which is a tool that helps advisors, powers up advisors to help them be more productive in the way that they deliver advice. The key trend, I think, at the moment is the development of artificial intelligence and the way that's coming through in the robo-advice space. And what we're seeing really is the ability to now really crunch a lot of data and see what's going on in the financial advice sector. And we're seeing, and in particular we're pioneering through our product Churro, the ability to use artificial intelligence to actually configure robo-advisors to give advice in a particular way. And I think that's going to make advice a lot more available and accessible to a lot more people. The other key thing that's going on really is that there's a shortage of advisors, particularly in the UK market, but also in most Western democracies. So we're seeing that traditional advisors tending to start focusing more on the wealthier members of society, and therefore robo-advice is becoming the solution for, if you like, the middle market. So that's quite an important trend. And finally, I think it's well known really that people are living for longer. They're not necessarily wanting to work for longer. So, big trend around how do we help people plan for a comfortable retirement that might be 20, 25 years or even 30 years of retirement, and how do people actually get their heads around planning that sort of longevity.
So Churro is the AI or the smart stuff inside of our regulated robo-advisor. It allows you to very quickly learn what the style is that an organization uses in order to be able to give advice. Each company, when they advise you on whether you should take a pension or an annuity, or whether you should transfer out of your DB scheme, or when they advise you on equity release, those kinds of things, they will always have their own take or their own philosophy that comes to bear on their advice. So Churro can learn how they do what they do, and it does this by reading through all of the advice that they've given in the past, or a subset of the advice that they've given in the past on this topic, and then learning what they do in situation A, what they do in situation B, and which factors comes into play, and how those factors are weighted against each other. I think what we're definitely able to do, and what I'm quite excited about, is to look for trends across a wide volume of data, a wide corpus of data. This is the first time really that it's been possible to run this kind of analysis, to look at all of these different types of organizations, how they give advice, what are the common themes, where are the best practices, what can we learn to distill the act of giving advice down to a few sets of very strong principles that everybody agrees with. We've never been able to do that before. I think that's a really exciting place to be. And I think it's also calling into, it's encouraging us to look at, well, how do we as humans do this? There's this thing called the AI fallacy, which is where you think, if I want to replicate what a human does with an AI, then the AI needs to be doing exactly the same steps as the human. And so if you look at how humans play chess, for example, it's full of judgment and taste and panache and flair. And those are things that are all very difficult to replicate in a machine. And yet we didn't need to do that to build an AI to beat Garry Kasparov at chess. And the same is true in financial advice. We've when we started down the robo-advice journey several years ago, we fell into this trap. We did what everybody else does, which is we encoded these rules into our systems, and that works. It's quite complicated, so it's complicated to analyze, it's complicated to build, it's complicated to test. So where the superiority is of these more modern techniques is that they've encouraged us to rethink how do we do this and greatly simplify it, and that means it's simpler to build and it's simpler to test, and we can have greater confidence that it does what we intend it to do. Definitely an opportunity. Throughout financial services, it's revolutionising the way that we work. It's taking processes which are difficult to carry out or which are error prone and just making them so much simpler and easier to use. And it's allowing people to focus on the parts of their job that are actually the really enjoyable parts of their job. The bits where they get to be creative and to help people, giving advice. A lot of people think that the AI is going to replace everybody's jobs. I'm personally not a believer in that. I think technology has traditionally always made some jobs obsolete, but created new jobs. And so there are, if you think about what your friends do, it's likely that they've got a job title that didn't exist 40 years ago. And that's going to be the same with AI. It's creating all sorts of new jobs and making our lives easier. I think, well, in my particular part of the industry, which is regulated financial advice, I think advice is going to be available to way more people than it is at the moment. There's only 22,000 financial advisors in the UK, and that's just not enough to go round. Whereas with the assistance of technology like Churro that can help people to give advice 10 times faster than they used to be able to, then that will effectively give us 220,000 financial advisors or the equivalent of that. That means that financial advice is going to be available to so many more people. And as a consumer, what this means is that you'll be able to just reach out and have access to this stuff either in a fully digital way or in what we like to call the hybrid or robo power planner interaction, where you're speaking to a human, but there's an AI assisting the advisor as a power planner. If as an advisor, I think you'll find your job a lot more enjoyable because you will be able to focus on the stuff that you really enjoy about your job, which is giving advice, and all of the heavy lifting, the writing of documentation, the writing down of facts from a fact find, that will all be handled by an AI for you.